who inherited nothing but an old notebook from his father, a man he barely knew. What he found written inside those pages would take him from sleeping in his car to building a life he never thought possible. And the strangest part? His father had been dead for 6 years before any of it made sense. Before we start, tell me, what time are you watching this right now? Where are you from? Drop a comment below. And if stories like this mean you, like and subscribe, because there are more coming. In a quiet city where rent rose faster than wages, there lived a 26-year-old man named Daniel. Daniel worked part-time at a hardware store, stacking paint cans and cutting keys for customers who barely looked at him. His apartment was really just a room above a laundromat, and most nights the spin cycles below shook his bed frame until 2 a.m. He had grown up mostly without his father, a quiet, distant man named Walter, who worked as a machinist and rarely spoke more than a few sentences at dinner. Walter died of a heart attack when Daniel was 20. They had never been close. There were no long talks, no shared hobbies, just silence across a kitchen table for 18 years. After the funeral, Daniel inherited almost nothing. A few tools, an old radio, and a thick water-stained notebook that sat in a box in his closet for 6 years, untouched. Daniel's life during those 6 years did not improve. He drifted between jobs. He maxed out a credit card, buying things he thought would make him feel less empty. He fell behind on rent twice. His girlfriend left, telling him, "You don't seem to want anything, Daniel. You just float." She wasn't right. He didn't know what he wanted. He only knew what he didn't want, which was this: the hardware store, the thin walls, the feeling of running in place while the rest of the world moved on without him. One evening, his landlord taped an eviction notice to his door: 60 days to pay what he owed or leave. Daniel sat on the floor of his room, back against the wall, staring at that notice until the streetlights outside flickered on. In a strange, hollow panic, he opened his closet, looking for anything he could sell. That's when his hand found the box, the notebook. He almost didn't open it, but something, maybe desperation, maybe curiosity he'd buried for 6 years, made him sit down and turn the cover. The first page had a date from 23 years earlier, written in his father's small, cramped handwriting. If you're reading this, it means I never said these things out loud, and I'm sorry for that. I was not a man of words, but I kept this notebook for the years I worked the floor at Holden Manufacturing, and I wrote down everything I learned about money, work, and not wasting a single day of this life. Maybe one day it'll matter to someone. Daniel's chest tightened. He kept reading. His father had organized the notebook into 7 sections, each labeled in that same cramped handwriting. Section 1, know exactly where your money goes. Walter had written about tracking every dollar for 30 days straight, no exceptions, because you cannot fix what you refuse to look at. Section 2, pay yourself before anyone else gets paid. Even $10 a week, set aside the moment you're paid, untouched. Section 3, learn one skill that machines can't replace yet. Walter had written about teaching himself blueprint reading on his lunch breaks for 2 years, which eventually got him promoted off the floor. Daniel sat on his floor reading until 3 a.m. He read about Section 4, small debts kill you slower than big ones because you stop noticing them. Section 5, build something on the side, even small, even slow, because a job can be taken from you, but a skill cannot. Section 6, every 6 months ask yourself one question: am I closer to free or closer to stuck? And Section 7, the shortest one, just a single line: discipline is just love you give your future self. Daniel closed the notebook and sat in silence. His father, who he thought had given him nothing, had spent over 2 decades quietly writing him a roadmap. He just never said it out loud. And Daniel had been too far away, too hurt, too busy assuming his father didn't care to ever ask. That night, something shifted in him. Not relief, almost anger. 6 wasted years pressing against his ribs. He grabbed a pen and started a new page in the same notebook. Day 1, he wrote. The next morning, Daniel did what Section 1 demanded. He wrote down every single expense: coffee, gas, a sandwich, a streaming subscription he'd forgotten he was paying for. By the end of the week, the picture was ugly. He was spending more on coffee shops than he was saving in a month. He cut it immediately. Section 2 came next. He opened a separate account and moved $20 into it the day he got paid, before rent, before anything. It felt insignificant. It also felt like the first decision he'd made in years that was actually his. For Section 3, Daniel thought about his job at the hardware store. He noticed something. Customers were always asking him how to fix small appliances, wiring, simple repairs. He started watching repair tutorials on his lunch breaks, the same way his father once studied blueprints. Within 2 months, he could fix small engines, lawnmowers, generators, pressure washers, well enough to take on side jobs. The first repair he did for a neighbor earned him $40 in an hour. It wasn't much, but it was money that existed because he built something, not because he traded his time at minimum wage. Section 5 in action. The eviction notice didn't disappear. Those 60 days were brutal. Daniel worked his hardware shifts, then drove to repair jobs in the evening, eating dinner in his car between appointments. He missed sleep. He missed simple comforts. There were nights he wanted to quit and just let the apartment go, move back to his mother's, give up the whole experiment. But he kept rereading that line. Discipline is just love you give your future self, and he kept going. By day 50, Daniel had repaid the back rent in full, with 2 weeks to spare. His landlord, surprised, asked what changed. "I started listening to someone I should have listened to a long time ago," Daniel said. 6 months later, Daniel checked in with himself the way Section 6 demanded. Am I closer to free or closer to stuck? He had saved over $2,000. He had a steady stream of repair clients from word of mouth alone. He was, for the first time he could remember, moving forward instead of treading water. A year later, Daniel had quit the hardware store entirely. His small appliance repair business had grown into something real. He rented a tiny shop space, hired a part-time helper, and his name was finally known around the neighborhood for something other than just stacking paint cans. He kept his father's notebook on a shelf in that shop, visible from the workbench, a reminder of where the whole thing started.
One afternoon, his mother visited the shop for the first time. She stood quietly, looking at the notebook on the shelf, then at her son, now calm, capable, building something with his hands, just like his father once had. "He would be proud of you," she said. "He never said much, but he was always proud of you." Daniel nodded, throat tight. "I know now," he said. "He just said it the only way he knew how." My friend, Daniel's story is proof of something simple but easy to forget. Sometimes the wisdom you need is already sitting in a box somewhere, waiting for you to be ready to read it. Sometimes it's not a stranger who teaches you the system. Sometimes it's been there the whole time, in the people who loved you quietly, imperfectly, without ever finding the right words. Here is what most people overlook. You don't need a mentor standing in front of you to start changing your life. You need a system, applied with discipline, repeated until it becomes who you are. Track your money. Pay yourself first. Learn one skill machines can't take. Watch your small debts. Build something on the side. Check in with yourself every 6 months. And remember that discipline, real discipline, is simply love you are giving the person you are going to become. So here's your challenge tonight. Open a notes app or grab a real notebook if you have one and write down every dollar you spent today. Just today. That's it. Tomorrow, do it again. In 30 days, you will see your life the way Daniel saw his father's handwriting for the first time, clearly and maybe for the first time, honestly. If this story meant something to you, hit that like button right now. Drop a comment and tell me, is there someone in your life who taught you something without ever saying it out loud? I want to hear about them. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because every week I bring you another story of someone who changed their life and exactly how they did it. Daniel's father wrote one line that changed everything. Discipline is just love you give your future self. Write that down, believe it, and start today.